Hello, Mossy the Modelling Guy here, and today I'll be reviewing Zavda's 1 to 35 scale BMP2. Now let's talk about the model. The overall details of the kit was quite good as it was a Zavda model, but it did not come with any people, which I found a little disappointing. The first part of the assembly was the road wheels, and that was done quite easily. I painted the undercoat my base colour of my made-up camouflage based off reference photos of BMPs in the country of Chad during their many civil wars. The undercoat was XF, I don't know. I say that because I've misplaced the paint sheet that I used for this model and the instruction sheet, and yeah, I've lost it completely. Anyway, after adding the road wheels on, I decided to work on a slightly warped top body part. I added all the pieces, and whilst I waited for the Tamiya extra thin cement to dry properly, I added the bottom hull on the top hull together. I decided to add the non-rubber tracks on the bottom hull. The tracks were a bit strange and fiddly as I had to cut each individual one out and clean it with a sharp hobby knife. I did the method of adding the tracks together, adding glue on. Whilst the glue was starting to dry, I then moulded the tracks on it, and as you can see, I'm nowhere near becoming a master. Whilst the tracks were drying, I checked the top hull section to see if it was dry, and it was not, so I went to building the flying saucer shaped looking turret. Overall, compared to the BMP1's turret, it was much larger and it had way more parts. It was a quick assembly overall, but the gun barrel is a little bit weak, and I'm sure that when building it, people have broken it. Remember how I told you the top hull was a bit warped? Well, I thought it was not a big deal, and with a bit of super glue and some readjusting, it'd be sweet, but I was wrong. The warped part was terrible, as it was literally not fitting onto the bottom hull, so I had to use lots of super glue, sandpaper to get rid of the excess glue. I'm also too poor to afford super glue de Wonder. Anyway, put the violins away and get the paint brushes out. Yes, if you do not know me very well, I'm an only brush painter. Painting was quite simple and quick. I think the part you guys really wanted to know, or I think that you guys wanted to know, was about the weathering. Since Chad is half desert, half grassland, I decided to not weather this model lots, but just enough. I used a dry pigment from AK Interactive called Middle Eastern Soil, since they're both deserts, and I don't think many people would notice it too much. I applied it to the vehicle, added some splattering effects on the wheels, and I had it almost finished for my geography assignment. I also learned that Chad was a very poor country, so I added sandbags to make it have extra armour. The sandbags were from Tamiya, and they were part of the Military Miniatures series. I thought that the sandbags would be a bit more random, but I realised they just used two molds for two different types of sandbags. Now, for the special surprise, drum roll please. Yes, another diorama. I made this because if you are a fellow modeler and you just have a block of foam lying around your house, you make it into a diorama or put it to good use. First, I cut the foam with a Stanley knife and put a thin layer of DAS air drying clay over it to act like a kind of plaster. I then got my biggest brush, added water over it, and whilst doing that, I realised that dabbing the brush in a certain way on the clay made it look as if there were little grains of sand and rocks. I waited for it to dry and added Tamiya XF59 Desert Yellow. Whilst that dried, I decided to get some popsicle sticks, cut them to look like wooden planks. I then burnt them and thought it gave a nice weathered effect. I glued the freshly burnt pieces of wood only to snap them on purpose to make it look as if the BMP was smashing through a cattle fence. I later painted the details like bits of rocks and brick to enhance the base. The last step was to paint the foam XF18, which is semi-gloss black. Overall, I am happy with this diorama, and I think that I will use the same techniques are used in this diorama for the future. Thank you for listening. I hope you learnt something new in this video, it has helped you in some way, or you simply just enjoyed it. Please consider liking and subscribing to this video. Thank you and bye bye.